You ever have that feeling, the one where you've done everything you were supposed to do? You got the good grades, you landed the great job, you're making a high salary, but deep down there's this little hum of panic, a feeling that you're just one bad day, one layoff, away from the whole thing just falling apart. Well, let's dive into the story of David, a guy who is stuck right in the middle of that exact corporate trap, and how he found his way out. See, from the time we're kids, we're sold this script. Work yourself to the bone, put in 60 hours a week, swallow the stress, and just sacrifice your best years. Why? All for this shiny promise of freedom when you turn 65. But what if that finish line is just a mirage? That's the core of the Deferred Life Plan, this crazy idea that you should trade your life now for a future that, let's be honest, isn't even guaranteed. And this is exactly where we find David. He's a senior software engineer, making a cool $200,000 a year. Now, to anybody looking in from the outside, the guy was rich. But on the inside, he was feeling this deep, gnawing sense of panic. He was basically a highly paid slave to his own lifestyle, trapped by what we call the golden handcuffs.
And this right here is the big distinction that society just fails to teach us. David made the classic mistake. He confused his high income with true wealth. Look, a big salary is really just a bigger paycheck. It gets taxed like crazy and it's tied directly to your time. True wealth, that's owning the asset. It's owning the machine that actually produces the money. David owned 0% of the tech giant he worked for. He had income, sure, but he had no real wealth.
He was basically operating as a human vending machine. He'd put in 60 hours of his life every week and cash would come out. Simple, right? But the problem is, if you got sick or the company decided to downsize, poof, the machine just turns off. That constant financial fragility, it creates this heavy weight on your mind, a stress that literally never goes away. So, what did David do to cope with all this stress? Well, the same thing millions of us do. He fell for another trap. He thought, a little reward would ease the pain. He fell victim to lifestyle inflation, and that led him straight into the waiting arms of credit card debt. So after a big promotion, David decides, I deserve this. He goes out and buys a $5,000 luxury home theater setup. He didn't have the cash, obviously, so he slapped it on a brand new credit card. When that first bill came in the mail, he actually felt relieved. The minimum payment was only $100. He thought, hey, I'll have this paid off in just a few years. Oh, he was so wrong. And here's the dirty little secret. Minimum payments are not designed to help you get out of debt. No. They are mathematically engineered by banks to keep you in debt for as long as they possibly can. So of David's $100 payment, about $90 went straight to interest. Only $10 actually chipped away at his debt. That $5,000 TV, it was now on track to cost him over $11,000 and take more than 15 years to pay off. Insane, right? This was it. This was David's rock bottom. But you know what they say about rock bottom? It's a great place to build from. Trapped by his job and now drowning in debt, he finally realized he was focused on the completely wrong number. And that's when he stumbled on the one concept that would rewrite his entire financial future. We are all obsessed with net worth. We see people online flexing millions in assets, and we think that's the goal. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't eat net worth. You can't pay your electric bill with unrealized capital gains. The size of your pile of money doesn't actually change your daily life. What really, truly matters is cash flow. This is the money that predictably hits your account whether you show up to work or not. It's the oxygen that lets you breathe. It is the only number that buys you real, tangible freedom from the daily grind. Now, this journey to freedom, it has milestones. And the very first one, I call it the validation milestone, $1,000 a month in passive income. Now, mathematically, that first 1,000 is the hardest to get, but psychologically, it's the most important. It proves the system works. It completely shatters that mental model that money only comes from trading away your time.
Okay, so once he proved the model worked, David could see the path forward. Milestone 2 is the survival milestone, $3,500 a month. Now, why that specific number? Because for most of us, that covers the big three: housing, food, and transportation. This is what you call the toxic job shield. The second you hit this number, you realize you can walk away from a terrible boss or a toxic work culture. You won't be homeless, you won't starve, your basic survival is now covered.
So David now had this crystal clear, achievable goal. Build a cash-flowing asset that could generate $3,500 a month. He didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to just throw at the stock market, so he had to build it with what's called sweat equity, basically trading his free time up front to create a passive income stream down the road. And he found the perfect vehicle to do it. He chose a strategy that was perfect for his situation: faceless YouTube automation. The real key here was targeting high RPM niches. RPM just stands for revenue per thousand views. So niches like personal finance, history, or luxury goods, they attract advertisers who are willing to pay top dollar. This means you need way fewer views to make significant money. A channel talking about finance might have an RPM over $25, while a gaming channel could be stuck under $3. It's a huge difference.
And the best part? The whole process is almost completely automatable with AI. David used ChatGPT for video ideas and scripts, a tool called 11 Labs for a super realistic AI voiceover, AI image generators and stock footage for the visuals, and then he just pieced it all together in a simple editor like CapCut. He built a cash-flowing media asset in his spare time for less than $50 a month.
So after about a year of consistent effort, really pushing that boulder up the hill, David's channel started to get some real momentum. The cash flow started to build. First, it hit that crucial $1,000 milestone, and then it just kept climbing. He had finally built his escape route. Now look, David didn't get some $10 million exit like a tech founder. He didn't become fabulously wealthy overnight. He achieved something far more practical and, honestly, way more valuable. He reached his goal of $3,500 a month. And that heavy weight of financial panic, it just lifted off his shoulders. He had built his toxic job shield.
At the end of the day, the goal was never about luxury cars or fancy watches. It was about security. It was about decoupling his survival from a job that he didn't control. Because true freedom, it isn't about having $1 million in the bank. It's a psychological shift. It's that moment when the constant, low-level fear of financial ruin finally goes away. David's story proves that escaping the trap is absolutely possible. It just requires you to shift your focus away from a high income and towards building cash-flowing assets. The path isn't easy, but the freedom it buys is very, very real. So the real question is, what asset will you start building today?